بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Last week we had discussed in regards to ta'awuz, the recitation of A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim. And we had mentioned that in this ta'awuz, seeking protection in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, seeking refuge in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala from shaitan, in this lies the solution to many of our problems, particularly the people that suffer from various forms of doubts. When they recite A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, they're handing the matter over to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and seeking protection from Allah Ta'ala. The second prescription we mentioned last week is that of La Hawla wa La Quwwata Illa Billah. This is also very, very beneficial. Any person that has any problem, if he recites Durood Sharif 100 times in the beginning, La Hawla wa La Quwwata Illa Billah 500 times, and then Durood 100 times in the end, and then he makes dua to Allah Ta'ala, inshallah, within a short period of time, that matter will be resolved. And we also mentioned that these doubts, this is an indication of Iman, because shaitan only troubles a person that has Iman. A person that doesn't have Iman, shaitan is not going to waste time with such a person. That is why when Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, when Sahaba told Nabi alayhi salam, Ya Rasulullah, that we suffer from such doubts that we cannot bring this onto our tongues, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said, ذَلِكَ صَرِيحُ الْإِيمَانِ. That is clear Iman that you have. So these were some of the prescriptions that we mentioned last week. Today, inshallah, we will discuss a little bit in regards to Bismillah, that Bismillah is not considered as a portion of any surah. Like if you're reciting إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ. So the Bismillah you read before إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ, before the surah, is not a part of Surah Nasr or Surah Lahab. If you're reading Tabbat Yada, the Bismillah you recite before that, that is not a portion of Surah Lahab, of Tabbat Yada. But Bismillah is actually brought to separate between one surah and another surah. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that I wouldn't know that one surah has ended and the next surah has started until Bismillah had come down with it. But Bismillah, it is a portion of the Quran Sharif. In Surah An-Nahl, which is in the 19th para, where Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam writes a letter to Bilqis when he was inviting her towards Islam. So it's a lengthy incident, we don't want to go into the incident, where his bird, the hudhud, this bird was lost. And he looked around for the bird and he said that when the bird comes back, لَوْعَذِّبَنَّهُ عَذَابًا شَدِيدًا, I will punish this bird very, very severely. Or it brings to me some valid excuse that where had it gone to. So when this bird had returned, Sulaiman alayhi salam questioned the bird. Allah Ta'ala had blessed him with the ability of speaking to animals. So he said that he went to a particular, the bird said, I flew to a particular place where the queen of this place, Bilqis, these people, they are worshipping the sun. So then Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, he wrote a letter to Bilqis, and in here he wrote, Innahu min Sulaiman wa innahu bismillahir rahmanir rahim. That this letter is from Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, and he begins in the name of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, who is most beneficent and who is most merciful. So this Bismillah that is mentioned in the 19th para, where the incident of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam is mentioned, this Bismillah is part of the Quran Sharif. So Bismillah is not part of any surah, but yes, it is a portion of the Quran Sharif, a portion of Surah An-Nahl, which is in the 19th para. But there is one instance where we will not read Bismillah. For example, when we come to the end of Surah Anfal, Surah Anfal starts in the 9th para. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنفَالِ. Anfal refers to the spoils of war. So when we recite Surah Anfal, when you come to the end of Surah Anfal, which is in the 10th para, and you start the next surah, which is Surah Tawbah. So when ending Surah Anfal and starting the next surah, which is Surah Tawbah, this is one instance where Bismillah is not recited. So various explanations have been given to this, but one simple explanation is that Surah Tawbah, they say, is a continuation of Surah Anfal. Because it's a continuation of Surah Anfal, if you are joining and reciting, then we will not recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. But if a person is starting from Surah Tawbah, a person is starting recitation from Surah Tawbah, so you're not continuing from Surah Anfal, but you're just starting from Surah Tawbah, then a person will recite Ta'awuz and a person will recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim as well. Now when it comes to Surah Fatiha, then all agree that Surah Fatiha, all the ulama agree that Surah Fatiha comprises of 7 ayat. There are 7 ayat in Surah Fatiha, 7 verses in Surah Fatiha. But some of them, they regard Bismillah as one verse. They say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is one verse. And then from Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, from Alhamdu till the end of Surah Fatiha, there are 6 verses. So Bismillah is one verse. Then from Alhamdu till the end of Surah Fatiha, there are 6 verses. This is the view of the Shafis, those that follow Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi. This is their view. This was the view of Imam Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi, that Bismillah is one verse of Surah Fatiha, and then from Alhamdu till the end, there are 6 verses. We say that there are 7 verses. The followers of the Hanafi madhab, we say no, there are 7 verses, but the first verse is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and the last verse of Surah Fatiha, that is counted as the 7th verse. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is not a verse of Surah Fatiha according to the followers of the Hanafi madhab. It is mentioned as Adam alayhi salam. Now there's so much of barakah in the Surah Fatiha, so much of blessings. Allah Ta'ala, in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Allah Ta'ala has kept so much of blessings. Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was in Jannah, he and Hazrat Hawa alayhi salatu wasalam, they enjoyed all the ni'mats, all the bounties of Jannat, and they could eat whatever they want. Only the forbidden tree they were prohibited from. But finally, Allah Ta'ala knows best. Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was misguided. Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was deceived, and he was made to eat from the forbidden tree. Now he had come into the world. When Adam alayhi salatu wasalam came into the world, it is mentioned to make one loaf of bread. To make one loaf of bread, he required 360 ingredients to make that one loaf of bread. And today it's not difficult to understand. Because if we go to a bakery where they're manufacturing bread, then you don't need 360 items. But perhaps you'll use hundreds and perhaps thousands of items for the manufacture of one loaf of bread. Because if you have to look at the machinery, there's so many different machineries in that factory. From the point that the flour is open and it's put into one machine till the point that it is sliced and then it is packed and then it is sent out, and then the transport companies that are used to deliver that bread, there is so much that is required. And every part of the machine, sometimes it is manufactured by different companies. So there's thousands of components, thousands of parts that are used in the manufacture of that one loaf of bread. And then we go to the shop and we're paying 15 or 20 rand for the loaf of bread, and we think bread is so expensive. So I've paid so much for the bread. But in reality, you can't pay for that loaf of bread. That ni'mat of Allah Ta'ala, that loaf of bread, we cannot pay. We are just paying the baker for making a little bit of effort, for the farmer who planted the wheat, for them making that effort, we are paying that 20 rand. But in reality, it is a ni'mat of Allah, we're getting that bread free of charge. You can't pay for it. A man that goes to fish, so he catches the fish. And then how he brings that fish. They sell it in the fish market, or it's brought to your fish shop, and you bring it home and you slice it up and you cook the fish. Now that fish, if you're paying 200 rand for that kilo of fish, 150 rand that kilo of fish, we haven't paid actually for the fish itself. Because you can't pay a price for the fish. This ni'mat of Allah Ta'ala is so great. So what are we paying that 150 or 200 rand a kilo for? We are paying for all those people that made that effort in bringing that fish right up to our door. So we are paying them. So Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, when he came down from Jannat, now he needed to make that loaf of bread. But he needed 360 ingredients to manufacture that one loaf of bread. So Allah Ta'ala said that read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And this entire task of yours, of gathering these 360 ingredients, it will be made easy and you'll be able to bake or make your loaf of bread. In a kitab it is mentioned that there was a Jewish girl. So she heard one alim speaking on the virtues of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So this had such an effect on her that she decided to recite kalima and become a Muslim on listening to the virtues of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So now it became a habit. Whenever she would do any work in the house, she would first read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and then she would carry out that work. So her father, he was one of the ministers. So he was very upset that this girl had accepted Islam, she became a Muslim. So one day he decided to give her a very precious pearl which belonged to the king. And he said, this belongs to the king. It is a royal pearl. I want you to take care of it. I want you to store it away. So he gave her this pearl and she stored it away. So the father saw where she put the pearl. So later on he went, he took the pearl and he threw it into the ocean. And now he came back to her. But before he coming home, when he was proceeding, there was one person that was selling fish. So he decided, let me buy 2 fish. He bought these fish and he came home. When he came home, the girl, again, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, she started cutting the fish, cleaning the fish. And that same pearl now came out of the fish. She was surprised. How did it come here? But nevertheless, she took it and she put it back into its place. So the father knew that she was in trouble now. She lost the royal pearl. So he came to her, he said, give me the pearl. So she went to the cupboard, Bismillah, she took it out and she gave it to the father. He asked her, how did you get the pearl? So she explained this entire incident that she found it in that fish. So now look at the barakat of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. There is one Qari Sahib that's in Johannesburg. So Qari Ghulam Musa, that's his actual surname is Musa. But once when I spoke on the virtues of Bismillah, then he came to me and he said, my grandfather, he was given the surname of Bismillah. In India, everyone used to call him whatever his name was, and Bismillah was his surname. So he said, I must tell you this, that this surname of Bismillah he got is because everything my grandfather did, always, he would recite Bismillah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and then he would undertake any work. So through this, he got the surname of Bismillah. In the Hadith Sharif also, it comes that today we're very worried about our risk, we're worried about our sustenance. People are worried about their children, that they don't have a job. Sometimes the husband doesn't have a job. So in the Hadith Sharif, it comes that one Sahabi, he came to Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, and then he complains to Nabi alayhi salam that, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that we're in very difficult conditions. There's no finance, there's no food in the house. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam told him, see, when you enter your home, then read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, number 1. Number 2, recite durood upon Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the third thing, recite Surah Ikhlas. So read Bismillah. Number 2, recite durood. And number 3, recite Surah Ikhlas. And then enter your home. So this was the advice given. So after some time, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam met him, said, how is it? How's everything going? So he said that Allah has given so much of barakah, Allah has given so much of barakah, that not only do I have sufficient for myself, but I'm now spending on my relatives also, and I'm spending on my neighbors also. So this is one prescription, if we want barakah in our home, that when we enter our home, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, durood upon Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that has additional blessings, and then we recite Surah Ikhlas, Qul Huwallahu Ahad, and Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will grant a lot of barakah in that home. In the tafsir, Mudihul Quran, there is an incident written where a Roman king, he wrote to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he told Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala that he's suffering from headaches. So he requested Umar radiallahu ta'ala to send him some medication. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala sent him a topi, and he told him that when you suffer from headaches, when your head is paining, then just wear this topi. So he would wear the topi. The moment he wore the topi, the headache would disappear. And the moment he removed the topi, then he would experience the headache. So he decided, let me see what is in this topi. So when he opened up the topi, he found that there was a small piece of paper, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, that is written on that. So one is the risk of a person is taken care of. The health issues that a person has, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will cure a person from his illnesses and from his sicknesses. Hazrat Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when the kuffar challenged him, that bring some proof, show us some proof that Islam is a true religion. So Hazrat Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he took a glass of poison, but obviously his iman was of that level. His yaqeen, his conviction in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala was of that level. So what is the Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu ta'ala did? He took a glass of poison, he read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and he drank that glass of poison. No harm whatsoever came to Hazrat Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So this is the barakah, this is the blessings of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. On every step, we should be reciting Bismillah. Whatever work you do, whether a person is cooking in the home, whether a person is writing, whatever it is, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Oh, they missed it. One occasion, Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam passed by a certain qabr. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he passed by a certain qabr where the inmate of the qabr was being given adhab. So Isa alayhi salam, perhaps he made dua to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala for the person that was in the qabr, and then Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he continued. Then Isa alayhi salatu wasalam passed by the very same qabr again. So when he passed by the very same qabr, he found that these people are not being given any form of adhab. This person is not given any azab. So he made dua to Allah ta'ala. He said, Ya Allah, that when I passed by the qabr the first time, this person was punished. This person was being given azab. But now that I pass by, the second time I see there is no azab. Whereas a person, when he leaves the world, then all his actions cease and all his actions come to an end. إِذَا مَاتَ إِنسَانٌ إِنْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ. When a person passes away, his amal, his actions all cease, his actions come to an end. So how is it that the adhab was removed from this person? So Allah Ta'ala inspires, Allah Ta'ala informs us, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, that, O Isa, that when this person passed away, he left behind a little child. And this child, when this child reached or came of age, 6 years old, maybe 7 years old, the mother took this child and went to the madrasa. And the first thing that the ustad started teaching this child is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So Allah Ta'ala said, O Isa, that little child who was masoom, sinless child, when he is saying in the name, I begin in the name of Allah, who is most beneficent, who is most merciful, he is calling me Rahman, he is calling me Rahim. How was it possible for me to continue punishing the father? I cannot punish the father. So immediately Allah Ta'ala removed the azab from the father. So through Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Allah Ta'ala protects the parents as well. In Ruhul Bayan, which is a kitab of tafsir, the commentary of the Quran, Allama Sayyid Haqqi Rahmatullah alayhi, he said that Allah Ta'ala has 3,000 names. 1,000 names Allah Ta'ala revealed to the angels. 1,000 names of Allah has been given to the angels. So we don't have these names, only the angels have it. 1,000 of the names of Allah Ta'ala were given to the Anbiya alayhi salam. This was exclusive for them, 1,000 names. 300 names of Allah Ta'ala are in the Torah. 300 names of Allah Ta'ala are in the Injil. And 300 names of Allah Ta'ala are in the Zabur. And 99 names of Allah Ta'ala in the Quran Sharif. The Torah was a kitab given to Hazrat Musa alayhi salam. Injil, the kitab given to Isa alayhi salam. The Zabur, the kitab that was given to Dawud alayhi salam. And the Quran Sharif was given to Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. So 300 in the Torah, 300 in the Injil, 300 in the Zabur, and 99 in the Quran Sharif. And one name, Allah Ta'ala, He kept to Himself. He didn't reveal this name to anyone else. And all these names now, which we mentioned, that 3,999. 2,399. 2,999. These 2,999 names, they are condensed in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. They have been brought in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So when you say in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, you're not taking one name of Allah or two names of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. There are 2,999 names of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala that a person is taking. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala says that as soon as a teacher, a ustad, starts teaching a child and teaches the child Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the teacher, the child, and the child's parents are all freed from the fire of Jahannam. Just on Bismillah, this is sufficient for the salvation of a person from the fire of Jahannam. We'll finish off on this one last narration, and then next week, inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq, we'll continue from Surah Fatiha. Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha states that once Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was eating with some Sahaba. So one Bedouin, he came along and he joined them. So when he sat down to eat, in 2 morsels, he finished all the food. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam said that if he only read Bismillah before eating, this food would have sufficed everyone. Everyone would have eaten. Therefore, Nabi alayhi salam said that if anyone forgets to read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, or Bismillah wa barakatillah before eating, then read Bismillahi awwalahu wa akhirahu, in the name of Allah in the beginning and in the end. He said this will make shaitan return all the food, because when you left out Bismillah, then shaitan started started partaking of that meal. Person entered the house, he didn't read Bismillah. Shaitan said, we got a place to stay. So when a person reads Bismillahi awwalahu wa akhirahu, then shaitan returns the food that he has eaten. In other words, all the barakah that was taken away, that barakah is returned. That's why you see kuffar, they eat so much of food they eat. But they never satiated, they eat more and more. What's the difference? What's the difference? The hadith sharif, it comes that the kuffar eat with 7 stomachs, we eat with 1 stomach. The difference is when we read Bismillah, Allah Ta'ala puts barakat in there. And Alhamdulillah, we are satisfied. But the kuffar, no Bismillah. So they're eating and eating, but they are never satisfied. So Allah has kept a lot of barakah in Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Some ulama have mentioned, they say that the entire contents of the Quran, from Alif Lam Mim, Surah Baqarah, right till the end, Surah Nas, all this, the barakah of all this, all the contents, this is all in Surah Fatiha. And the contents of Surah Fatiha, this is in Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And the contents of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, this is in the ba, in the letter ba. When you start Bismillah, you start with the letter ba. This is in that ba. So from here we understand how blessed is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is a great ni'mat that Allah Ta'ala has blessed us with. I believe in the beginning the mic was not switched on correctly. So there were certain points that we missed out. If it needs to be repeated, inshallah, next week we'll try and repeat it. Or we can access it from the live streaming, if it is already on the live streaming. Next we will do the best deeds ever. Last week we had discussed in regards to the importance of Salah, just a little bit more in regards to the importance of Salah, and then we'll start with the Masail. So the last point that we had mentioned, that a person that doesn't perform Salah, such a person will be resurrected on the day of Qiyamah with the kuffar. People like Fir'aun, Haman, Qarun. These were great oppressors, and how Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala destroyed them as well. Qarun, he was drowned into the earth. Fir'aun, he was drowned into the ocean. So a person will be resurrected with these oppressors. इसलिए नमाज पढ़ना बहुत ज़रूरी है. Therefore, it is very necessary that we perform salah. और न पढ़ने से दीन और दुनिया दोनों का बहुत नुकसान होता है. And if a person doesn't perform salah, the deen of a person is also affected, and the dunya of a person is also affected. Last week we mentioned in regards to our risk, our sustenance, that you perform salah, Allah Ta'ala will take care of your risk. Our job is to obey Allah Ta'ala, fulfill the commands of Allah, and Allah Ta'ala's responsibility is to provide sustenance for us. इससे बढ़कर और क्या होगा कि बेनमाजी का हशर काफिरों के साथ क्या गया. What can be worse than this? That the benamazi, a person that doesn't perform salah, he will be resurrected with the kuffar. Benamazi kafiro ke barabar samjha gaya hai. That a person that doesn't perform salah, he has been equated to the kuffar. There's no difference between us and the kuffar if there's no salah in the life of a Muslim. Khuda ki pana, namaz na padna kitni buri baat hai. We seek refuge in Allah Ta'ala. That not to perform salah is such an evil act. Albatta, in loko par namaz wajib nahi. But there are certain people that are exempted. They don't have to perform salah. Majnoon, that a person that is insane. An insane person, he is exempted from salah. He is free from salah. He does not have to perform salah. Or choti larki or larka, jo abhi juan na hua ho. And a small boy or a small girl that hasn't yet reached the age of maturity, so there is no salah upon them as well. They are not baligh, they are not burdened with the laws of Sharia, so they do not have to perform salah as well. Baki sab Musalmanon par faraz hai. But on the remaining Muslims, namaz is faraz. But the child also, I think it's coming ahead, that when the child reaches a certain age, then we have to encourage the child to start performing salah. लेकिन औलाद जब 7 बरस की हो जावे तो माँ बाप को हुक्म है कि इनसे नमाज पढ़ावे. But when the child reaches the age of 7, then the parents are commanded by Shariat that now make this child start performing salah. Make this child start performing salah. So now you need to start instructing the child, come, you need to read namaz. And make the child read namaz. The father, he must take the child and go to the masjid. When he's 7 years old, now the child knows basic etiquettes of the masjid. So the child can be brought to the masjid. Yes, children that are smaller than that, they shouldn't be brought to the masjid because they're going to run around the masjid, they're going to laugh, they're going to play. They are children, they need to play. So small children that are younger than 7, they shouldn't be brought to the masjid. But when a child reaches 7, he has some level of understanding. So that child must now be brought to the masjid. So he forms a habit of performing salah. And when he reaches the age of maturity, a boy can become mature at the age of 12. So if he becomes mature by the age of 12, already he is in the habit of performing salah. Similarly, a little girl, when the mother is reading namaz at home, then the child must be brought next to the mother and she should perform salah with the mother. So when she reaches the age of 9 and maybe she matures at the age of 9, so already she is performing salah. और जब 10 बरस की हो जावे तो मार कर पढ़ावे. And when a child reaches the age of 10, then you can hit the child a little bit and make the child perform salah if the child is not performing salah. और नमाज का छोड़ना कभी किसी वक्त दुरुस्त नहीं. And a person cannot miss salah at any time. There is no instance where a person is absolved from salah, that you don't have to perform salah, except the instances that we mentioned now, that a person is insane, or a person becomes unconscious, and unconscious for a long duration. 6 salahs a person passes over a person and a person is unconscious. Now, there is no, that namaz that he has missed, there is no qaza for that as well. But if it is less than that, 1 namaz or 2 namazes, a person was unconscious. When the person regains consciousness, the person has to perform salah. A person is ill in hospital, they're on the hospital bed. Person cannot get up and even go to the bathroom to go and make wudu. So they also, a person is not absolved of salah. Salah has to be performed. As far as possible, the hospital bed can turn. If they can't get off, then raise the back a little bit and face the bed in the direction of Qibla. Somebody can bring a spray bottle and assist the person in making wudu, and a person should perform salah. If a person can't use water also, then a person would make tayammum and a person would perform salah. If a person can't sit and read namaz, lie down on the bed and perform salah. But a person has to perform salah in every condition. So that's what he is saying here. और नमाज का छोड़ना कभी किसी वक्त दुरुस्त नहीं है. It is not correct to miss out salah at any instance. जिस तरह हो सके नमाज जरूर पढ़े. However a person is able to perform salah, a person should perform salah. अलबत्ता अगर नमाज पढ़ना भूल गई, बिल्कुल याद ही न रहा. But if a person forgot to perform salah, person forgot, completely it slipped the mind, a person didn't remember. Sometimes it happens, we are human beings. So a person completely forgot to perform salah, didn't remember at all. जब वक्त जाता रहा तब याद आया. Now when the time of salah expired, now a person remembered, oh, I supposed to read my Zohar salah. And now it's Asr time, and I missed my Zohar salah. कि मैंने नमाज नहीं पढ़ी या ऐसी गाफिल सो गई कि आंख न खुली, that I missed my namaz. Or a person fell off to sleep, and such a deep sleep that a person didn't wake up at all. The eyes didn't open, or namaz qada ho gayi, and now the salah of a person has become qaza. So aise waqt guna na hoga. At such a time, a person will not be sinful. If it completely slipped the mind of a person that to perform salah, person didn't remember, and later on a person remembered that, I missed my salah. So when the person forgot, it was done intentionally. So there's no guna on the person. Similarly, a person went to sleep. Every day a person wakes up for Fajr namaz. But on this particular day, person put the alarm, everything as normal, and went to sleep. But we didn't hear the alarm. Person overslept. It happens. We are human beings. So when a person overslept, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was traveling with Sahaba on one occasion. They were returning from the battlefield, and they stopped at a certain place. And Sahaba was so tired, they said that who will wake us up for the Fajr Salah? So Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala took the responsibility. He will wake Sahaba for Fajr Salah. So all the Sahaba, including Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, all went to sleep. Hazrat Bilal radiallahu anhu was also tired. So it so happened, sleep overpowered him and he also slept. And then when the rays of the sun hit against them, this is when they woke up. So he told Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Rasulullah, I overslept. And the namaz had become qaza. Nabi alayhi salam missed the Fajr namaz. So Nabi alayhi salam said, come, let's move away from this place. This is not a good place. Our namaz became qaza over here. This is a sin. This is wrong. Although there's no sin over here, there's no guna for missing qaza, for missing the namaz when they were overpowered by sleep. So he said, but let's go away to another place. And in Jamaat, in this particular instance, that's why the masla comes for the males in the kitabs of fiqh, that if a number of people had missed a particular salah, can they read that salah in Jamaat or not? So Nabi alayhi salam went to another place. And then they performed that salah, they called out the adhan, the iqama again, and they performed the salah in congregation. So a person, for missing out the salah because of a deep sleep, a person won't be sinful. Lekin jab yaad aave aur aankh khule, to wuzu karke fauran qaza par lena faraz hai. But when the eye opens, then a person should immediately make wudu and make qaza of that namaz. It is compulsory. A person overslept. Fajr time expires at, let's say, 5:30. 5:30 Fajr time expired. And a person woke up at 5:45. At 5:45. This is now 15 minutes after sunrise. So many a time what we say, oh, now I miss my namaz. So later on when I'll read my Zohar namaz, I'll make my qaza of Fajr. This is incorrect. This shouldn't be done. When a person missed namaz, and the moment a person woke up, or the moment a person remembered, if it's not the makruh time of performing salah, then immediately the qaza of that namaz should be performed. Immediately. So you woke up at 5:45, immediately get up, go and make your wudu and make qaza of that namaz. Don't say that I'm going to read it at Zohar time. Immediately the qaza must be made. अगर वो अलबत्ता अगर वो वक्त मकरू हो तो जरा ठहर जावे ताकि मकरू वक्त निकल जावे. But if it is a makruh time, let's say a person, Fajr expired at 5:30, so they woke up exactly at 5:30. So now it was sunrise. So 15 minutes after sunrise, you cannot perform salah. 10 to 15 minutes. We take the view of 15 minutes in which there is more precaution. So 15 minutes after sunrise, we will not perform salah. This is the time of sunrise. The worshippers of the sun, they worship the sun at this time. That is why it's makruh to perform salah at that time. You cannot be making ibadat when they are making the ibadat of the sun. Similarly, at the time of Asr, about 15 to 20 minutes before Asr expires, at the time of sunset, the worshippers of the sun, they worship the sun. They do a funny type of a dance, and that is the worshipping of the sun. Allah Ta'ala has protected us, and we make so much of shukr. Allah blessed us with iman, that in such a perfect way we make the ibadah of Allah Ta'ala. So even at the time of sunset, we will not perform salah at the time of sunset, that 15 to 20 minutes before sunset, because we do not want to resemble those worshippers of the sun. And when the sun comes to the central point, comes to the zenith, which is the zawal time, which is at midday, so then also approximately 5 to 10 minutes, a person shouldn't perform salah. Although zawal is just a moment. When the sun comes to the central point and then it moves, that's just a moment. But as a precautionary measure, we don't know that exact time when it has come to the central point. So the ulama say give it about 5 to 10 minutes and we'll be safe that at this time we won't perform salah. So we won't be making salah at the makruh time. So if it's not the makruh time, then you can make the qaza. But if it is the makruh time, then wait till the makruh time is over and then a person will make the qaza of the salah. इसी तरह जो नमाज़ें बेहोशी की वजह से नहीं पढ़ी. And similarly, those namazes that were performed, those namazes that were missed out because of being unconscious, isme bhi guna nahi. There's no guna for this. You were unconscious, that was out of your control. So when a person is unconscious, there is no guna for the salah that was missed out. Lekin hosh aane ke baad fauran qaza parni padegi. But the moment a person regains consciousness, then the qaza of that namaz has to be made. Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq. The next is the sunnats of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Last week we had mentioned one or two benefits in regards to the sunnat of Nabi Alayhi Salatu Wasalam. And we quoted the famous poem of Hazrat Hakim Akhtar Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi, where Hazrat mentioned that if a person wants Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, then a person should act upon sunnat. If you act on sunnat, you'll get Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala cash. In another poem, Hazrat says, Gar sunnat nabawi ki pervi karegi ummat. Gar sunnat nabawi ki pervi karegi ummat. That if this ummat has to follow the sunnat of Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the teachings, the way of life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, tufan se nikal jayega fir inka safina. Then they ship, which is now in the storms of the ocean, they ship will come out of the storms of the ocean, meaning all the problems that we have in our life, whether it is the domestic problem or whatever problem we have for the businessman, his business problem, whatever issues we are experiencing, by acting on sunnat, Allah will take us out of all these problems in the world. And we know everyone has problems. We mentioned this last week also. Some problem or the other. Practicing on sunnat, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will take us out of all these problems. Maulana Abdullah Kapotravi, very senior alim, he passed away now. Allah give all our marhumin Jannatul Firdaus. So he used to live later in Canada. He had moved over to Canada. He was in Toronto. So one day he wanted some water. He was thirsty. He needed a glass of water. So he went up to one shopkeeper and he requested a glass of water. So it was a Canadian person. So he gave Maulana a glass of water. Maulana took the water. He sat down according to Sunnah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and he drank in 3 sips. So the Canadian person now looking at Maulana, he started laughing. He said, "You're sitting down and you're drinking water." So Maulana didn't say anything. So he drank his water and he went away. So that night, when he went home, his wife had prepared supper. And sometimes the hair falls into the food. So generally the men, they make a big noise in the house when there's now hair coming in the food. But when we buy out all the restaurants, and then we know who's cooking there, and they're not even clean, napak, the hands also sometimes dirty. And then all the hair comes out from there, then nobody complains. And the takeaway food is very tasty. One person that was in Johannesburg, in Lenasia. So there, many places, Friday night, Saturday night now, they want to eat out. So they said, let's go buy pizza. So they went to buy pizza. So when they came home, all the pizza boxes were open and the children were eating the pizza. So the one child told the mother that all this hair is here. So the mother kept him quiet, said, "Shh, keep quiet, just eat your food now. Don't make a noise, otherwise everybody's appetite is going to be spoiled." And then after that, another child found so much of hair in the food. Now, obviously the mother couldn't keep that child quiet. So everyone knew now all that food came out. So now nobody could eat that food. So nevertheless, the point that we explained is that some hair now was in the food. So this person now started eating the food and the hair got stuck in his throat. So he went to the doctor. So they said, no, you need to go to hospital. So he went to hospital, they tried to remove the hair, they couldn't remove it. So they said, you come back tomorrow morning, we'll have to do a surgery and we'll have to remove the hair. Now, little bit of hair, but look what a big issue it became. So when he went home, now obviously he's restless, they're going to do surgery on him tomorrow morning. So he was restless. So whilst thinking now, he says, but you know, that person that came to the shop today, he squatted, he sat down and he drank the glass of water. So he said, let me try this. So he took a glass of water, he sat down, he squatted and he drank the glass of water. And the hair that was stuck now in the throat immediately went down. See, sunnah. So the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to benefit us in dunya also. Although we regard, no, this is something very trivial. This is something trivial. Today in the masjid also, when it comes to salah, sometimes the youngsters, sunnah salah. So they omit the sunnah salah. No, we did the faraz. We don't read the sunnah salah. But the sunnah salah is actually the completion of the faraz namaz. It is the completion of the faraz namaz. That is why after the sunnat namaz, you should make a little bit of dua a person can make. But immediately after that, a person should read the sunnat namaz. Why? Because if there were any deficiencies in the faraz namaz, this will be perfected through the sunnat namaz that we are performing. So there should be no delay between the faraz namaz and between the sunnat namaz. Ladies sometimes in the house, now they read the faraz namaz, now they go check the pot. Now they're coming back to read sunnat namaz. No. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. Rather put the pot off the stove. And then read your namaz properly, comfortably. And then go and attend to this. One person, Hazrat Mufti Mohammed Desai, rahmatullahi, very great alim, passed away in South Africa. And one person told him, Hazrat, हम नमाज पढ़ेंगे, फिर हम आराम से खाएंगे. That let's read namaz, then आराम से, comfort, we'll sit down and we'll eat our food. So Hazrat Mufti Sahib was very witty, very intelligent person. So what he said, नहीं, हम पहले खाएंगे, फिर आराम से नमाज करेंगे. First let's eat our food. And when we finish our food, then with ease and comfort, we will read our namaz. So see, we got everything in the opposite way. That our dunya, we will give all our attention to our worldly matters. And deen, that deen is something that is silent. It is a responsibility, we do it as a responsibility. Whereas the main thing is deen. And dunya is, by the way, just for our living in this world. Just so that we can have a house to live in, we can have food on our table, our day-to-day needs can be fulfilled. That is why dunya is there. But our objective of being in the world is for deen. So here also, look at the worldly benefit. I'll mention one more incident. One Jamaat, they went to one country. I can't remember which country they went to. This is many years ago. Many years ago. So they went to one foreign country and there was a Buddhist temple. So for some reason, they had an issue. I can't remember exactly what happened, but they got in touch with the Buddhist priest. So after 3 days, the Buddhist priest, he came to them and he said, give me your strongest man, the strongest man that you got here, give me your strongest person from the Jamaat. So they presented one person here. This is the strongest person in the Jamaat. Now we're talking of physical strength. So he just looked at him, just one look, and he dropped him to the ground. Like, the Hindus, they do a lot of spiritual exercises, the Hindus. And the jadoo that they do, the Hindus, the Tamil, very strong jadoo they do. Although Allah has given us protection, and we have the strongest protection, the Quran Sharif, Ayatul Kursi, Manzil, Mu'awwazatain, Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falak, Surah Nas. This is the strongest protection. Jadoo has no strength against this. When jadoo was done on Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Jews were the masters of jadoo. We'll do it in Surah Falak and Surah Nas. They were the masters of jadoo. And they did jadoo on Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. To combat that jadoo, Allah revealed Surah Falak and Surah Nas. So can there be anything stronger than Surah Falak and Surah Nas? Can there be anything stronger than Ayatul Kursi? Can there be anything stronger than the Manzil? No, nothing can be stronger than this. So nevertheless, the Hindus do a lot of spiritual exercises. That is why they're able to walk through the fire. They poke the needles through their tongue. This is all because of these spiritual exercises that they gain a lot of strength as well. So this Buddhist priest, because of his spiritual exercises, he was able to now drop this person. So then he tells the Jamaat, he says, see, that you people have something that is much stronger than what I have. I can drop this man, but you have something much stronger. And he said, what is that? He said that from the day you came, I could see the strength you have because of following the way of your Nabi, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All the strength is in the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then, if I'm not mistaken, he accepted Islam as well. So there are many such incidents. People that started using miswak. The minimum benefit is this. تُذَكِّرُنَا كَلِمَةَ الشَّهَادَةِ عِنْدَ الْمَوْتِ. The minimum benefit of miswak is that a person will recite kalima at the time of maut, which is not an easy thing to recite kalima. To recite kalima at the time of maut is a task, because we don't know if we'll get the tawfiq of reciting kalima or not. One person, he was on his deathbed and he's leaving the world. Recite kalima, no, nothing. The ruh doesn't want to leave the body. But he had a lot of love for what? Kruger coins. He loved Kruger coins. So what they did, they brought a few Kruger coins and they put the Kruger coins on his chest. The moment they put the Kruger coins on his chest, finished. The ruh now pulled up, because the ruh comes from the leg, from the toes. That is why the leg becomes lame first. Person that's standing and he's in sakarat, he'll fall down. He can't stand. Because the ruh is being pulled now from the leg. And then it comes up, and it comes up through the entire body. And then finally it leaves from the nose. The ruh, it comes out of the nose and it leaves from the nose. Right? That is why the sign we look for is, now the nose has bent a little bit. The temples have gone in. That's the indication now this person is on his way out. So this is the benefit of acting on the sunnats of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If Allah gives us tawfiq, inshallah, next week we will continue from this point. Hayz ki muddat, this last kitab. I'll just do a few masail very quickly. This pertains to the time of haze. Here he asks that what is the minimum period of haze and what is the maximum period of haze? So both these times have been stipulated. The minimum period of haze is of 3 days, 72 hours. The minimum period is 72 hours. And the maximum period is 10 days. He says, haze ki kam se kam 3 din muddat muqarrar hai. So this is 72 hours. लिहाजा अगर खून 3 दिन से कम होगा, चाहे चंद मिनट ही कम हो, तो वो हैज नहीं. But if the bleeding is less than 3 days, even by let's say 20 minutes less than 3 days, 20 minutes, then it will not be counted as haid. It must be full 72 hours. Alamgiri mein hai, in the fatwa kitab Fatawa Alamgiri, it is written, Aqallul haydi salasatu ayyamin wa thalathu layalin. That the minimum period of haze is 3 days and 3 nights. Fi zahir al-riwaya, hakada fi tabyin. This is according to Zahir al-riwaya, which is the Hanafi madhab, where the masail are generally taken from. The next question is, क्या हेज के खून के लिए खून का मुसलसल 3 दिन तक बराबर जारी रहना जरूरी है? That for the bleeding to be considered as haze, is it necessary that the bleeding must continue for 3 days consecutively? इस तरह के 1 या 2 दिन, 1 या 2 या 3 गरीबी बन न हो. That it should be continuous in such a way that in between the bleeding shouldn't stop for either an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. The bleeding mustn't stop. So in other words, within this 3-day period, if the blood stops in between anywhere for an hour or couple of hours, then will we say that the 72 hours are not fulfilled, and that is why it's not haze? That is the question that is asking. So he says, haze ke khoon ke liye khoon ka musalsal 3 din tak jari rehna zaruri nahi hai. It's not necessary that the bleeding must be consecutively for 3 days. If there's a break in between for a couple of hours and then it starts again, what sometimes we call spotting. If there's spotting in between, but it lasted for 72 hours, then too it will be considered as haze. इसलिए एक दो या ज़्यादा साअतें खून बंद रहने से haze बातिल न होगा. That if the bleeding stops for a few hours, then the haze will not be considered as invalid, it will be valid. Haze की ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कितनी मुद्दत मुकर्रर है? The maximum period of haze, it says haze की ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा मुद्दत 10 दिन मुकर्रर है. Maximum period of haze is 10 days. If it goes beyond 10 days, then that will become istihaza. But obviously the masail differ. We'll have to find out what is the masla. One last masla. वो खून जो औरत को 3 दिन से कम आकर बंद हो गया, that bleeding which was less than 3 days and it stopped, तो इस खून को हेज तो नहीं कह सकते, फिर इस खून को क्या कहेंगे? So the bleeding was less than 72 hours and it stopped. So we will say this is not haze. So what will this bleeding be referred to? इस खून को इस्तिहाजा कहते हैं. This is referred to as istihaza, this bleeding. यानी वो किसी बीमारी की वजह से आ गया है. This bleeding has come because of some illness. أقل الحيض 3 أيام ولياليها وما نقص من ذلك فهو استحاضة. The minimum period of haze is 3 days and 3 nights. Whatever is less than that, that is considered as istihaza. Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq, inshallah. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka.